Finally, the moment a couple of you have been waiting for.
It's all like bing bong, Jack.
Coming to you from an undisclosed location in Duval and St. Johns County. The show for Jag fans by Jag fans.
You can't have a newcomer come in and steal the show.
Here are your hosts, Franklin and Michael how you say it? DeZoba. Welcome to the Jaggernaut Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome you back to another edition of the Jaggernaut Podcast. Michael, got my brother Franklin with me. And tonight's episode, depending on when you view this, we're going to touch on some few things. Frank, we were talking earlier in one of our Discord channels, and you had brought up an interesting topic of Leftwich as the coach being paired with a specific guy for a potential GM role. I'm very anti-Balky. I don't want Balky here anymore. I think we should clean the entire house, sanitize it, get the exorcism in here, get it done with, and then start fresh. So I'm not Byron Leftwich isn't my top candidate. But I think maybe I might take him if paired with a comparable decent GM. If those two have a relationship, they can work together. That may be pretty good. But I'm not down on Leftwich. I guess I'll say that he's just not my number one candidate. Then we're going to hit you up with just a few little tidbits from the draft, because that's, as Jags fans, that's what we turn our attention toward.
Because I got my hat on now. Yeah, the season's over. It's time to start the real business.
Yeah,
that's what us Jag
we
fans
have nothing else.
Champs.
Other than that, maybe try to get you guys to understand when. Because I've been reading a little bit on social media, and not a lot of people understand when coaches can be hired. So probably just throw that out there. And then, so Frank, I'm going to kick it over to you, man. Why don't you tell us about Leftwich and a potential GM that will join him?
Yeah, I mean, who knows if this is how much traction this really has. It's just, everything's hearsay right now. That's what that's the season that we're in as a fan of, in limbo, waiting on one for Balky to be fired, hopefully, and also for the coaching search and who's it going to be, So I did warm up to the idea. I like you warm up to the idea of Leftwich. I don't dislike Leftwich as a candidate. He's not top. Like, if I place them in rank, maybe we did this last episode. So I think I probably have him somewhere around 4th or 5th. So that being said, I don't hate the idea of Leftwich, but not my first choice. If he does have some connection to the Arizona Cardinals, director of pro personnel, Adrian Wilson, then if that sort of forces Balky out of the building, then I'm all for it. The thing about Leftwich to me is he's a young coach. So in this dynamic of power play, I'm a little wary about this idea that this would be what Balky would want, because he would then have the power, there in that dynamic. And that maybe if the other people within the building look at it and see it in terms of a complete sweep, I'm sure there are people in the building that feel like it should be done that way. Then maybe Leftwich does give you the possibility of bringing somebody like that in. I don't know if he's a great GM, if he would be. I don't know how good he is at his job. I do think generally positively about the way the Cardinals have, last night's game notwithstanding, brought in players.
Yeah, they were awful, man.
Yeah,
Like,
right.
they were awful. Did you notice that trend with the playoffs? Speaking of, just a segue. Oh,
I know what you
it
think.
was like, man, one team would show up and one team would not. I think it started like the Bengals and the Raiders was an okay game, nothing crazy there. But the only other game that was even somewhat entertaining was San Francisco and Dallas. And I don't even think that was really all that entertaining because Dallas trailed the entire time. San Francisco looked like they had them with ease. And yeah, Dallas just ran out of time. So, I mean, I guess you could say they were in position to tie at the end of the game, which is good. But to me, it was like the Eagles didn't show up, the Cardinals didn't show up. Um,
Steelers,
New England
New
didn't
England.
show up at all. I mean, now granted, they went up against the Bills buzzsaw that really just took it to them, and they were on them quick.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I thought that was about a theme. You know, it seems like the good teams have definitely elevated over the next ranked playoff teams.
It seemed like it would be good matchups too. I'm not super surprised the Steelers, uh, you know, didn't show up. I never really felt like they had the ammunition, to justify being in the playoffs. I think that their momentum, anyway, I don't think they ever really stood a chance. So I'm not surprised they got blown out. The other games that were blowouts, a little bit surprising. I mean, the Patriots, looking back, you kind of understand that a little bit more, but there's this mystique around Belichick. You think he'll figure something out. He's, it's the type of environment that Belichick might be able to work. I felt like it was never a question about what the better team was. I always felt like the Bills had the better team. And they're at home. So it's just a matter of whether or not Belichick can make it close. Always kind of feel
Right.
like you give him that edge. So, but even and I've said this before, I don't think Belichick's a genius. I just think everybody else makes him look like a genius because there's so many dumb people running NFL teams right now that, in contrast, he looks like Rain Man genius. And it's not really that. He just doesn't do dumb things, we're like us,
Yeah.
and because we haven't fired Balky.
So you're good. So you're good with Leftwich. Now, are you good with Leftwich and Balky, or are you just good with Leftwich and Adrian Wilson? I think that's who you said.
I like Okay, so Adrian Wilson helps with Leftwich. Let's take him out of the picture for a minute. Um, let's understand something. If a coach can come in and get rid of Balky, that's what I'm good with. So let's just forget Balky too for a second, and we'll just deal with a coach. Um, I prefer somebody that has some experience. I like the story of Leftwich. I like the idea of him coming back to the team. We did an episode recently where I sort of, said I did start with the 99 loss to the
Right.
Titans, but Leftwich's draft pick was part of that chain, and a pretty large part of that chain of bad decisions that I think have led us to the point where we're at now. So it would be a nice story if he could come back and
And close
um,
that chain, close that
yeah,
loop.
but think about this. I mean, we just brought Coughlin back, and that turned into another dumpster fire too. So consider me a little gun shy at this point on that sort of idea. So is it a fresh start? I mean, part of it is one of the things that people want to do in regards to getting rid of Balky is this idea of a fresh start. And while we're on the point, let me ask you this. Do you think that people would, because it seems like the fan base, at least on social media, the vocal social media fan base wants Leftwich. That seems to be the dominant view. And do you feel like that would help it soothe their feelings if they kept Balky?
No, no. I think Balky's a stain. I think Balky has done, whether he did or did not do, whether it was Urban, um, you know, Balky, to me, Balky's part of the problem. I want to get rid of the problem. If we bring in Leftwich, all right, sweet, cool. But if we keep Balky, I'm a firm believer we'll be back here in 2 or 3 years looking for another head coach, trying to figure out, okay, now we can fire this GM, because now Khan sees the light, and basically it's almost Dave Caldwell 2.0, where we're back just changing a portion of what didn't work. The entire structure's broke. We need to retool the entire machine, not just portions of it.
Yeah. And I
Like,
don't know if you saw Mia O'Brien did a story on the news network, and I forget which one she works for, but she did a really good job of kind of explaining how it's the same old thing. That I think the way she couched the terminology of it was putting band-aids on everything. She may have even said something about, repeating the same thing and expecting a different result, and being that, that's typically used as the definition for insanity. So
and yeah, and I'm in, if that's what she said, I'm in complete agreement with her.
yeah,
We need a complete retool, and that's why, like, I'm not big on Leftwich, but if Leftwich comes with a new GM, I can tolerate that for 2 or 3 years to see what he's got. Because at that point, to me, it becomes a complete rebuild.
Yeah.
And that's what I think we need. If we bring in, really, I would probably I'm still going to be a fan as long as we bring in somebody other than Bill O'Brien.
Yeah.
That's the only guy I absolutely do not want, because he's a stain in and of himself.
Do you feel like that ship has sailed though? Because as much as that sort of pushed into the narrative, it feels like it's now gone.
Yeah, I've seen that. I've seen it die less and less. He's being reported less and less. But that just could very well be old news until they actually have a press conference to announce the next coach. I'm always in the back of my head going to think, damn, this might be Bill O'Brien.
Right.
Have you heard?
Have you heard that there has been a coach given a second interview?
I have not heard that.
And that coach would be Matt Eberflus, the defensive coordinator for the Colts. So I think I don't know that he's had the second interview. I think it may be scheduled. So I don't know much about him. I don't, especially, my feelings on this are, I want somebody who has some success, and I'm not saying he's not successful or good at his job, but the last game we saw didn't jump out at me. This is a team that was supposed to be looking for the playoffs and lost to
Eberflus, Nathaniel Hackett, even to a certain extent, Keelan Moore from Dallas, so those three guys, and Leftwich. So there are four guys who are essentially sort of hot coordinators right now and don't have any head coaching experience. Again, if it's Shad Khan's team, it's his money. If he thinks for some reason this is the best guy for the job, I'm okay with it. I'm not okay with it if we don't get rid of Balky for the reasons I've already stated. But as long as we don't get Bill O'Brien, I guess I don't have a choice but to almost keep giving him the benefit of the doubt. Yeah. But if we say we get Eberflus, okay, and he's our next coach, I'm not going to a game. I'm not buying any more gear.
Yeah, Eberflus Balky combination.
Yeah, Eberflus and Balky, they don't do anything for
No,
me.
doesn't move
Now,
the needle at
if
all.
it's Leftwich and Balky, I'm not going to a game.
Yeah.
I'm not buying anything. If it's Leftwich and a new GM, okay, yeah, I'll go check them out. I'll go to training camp. I'll go look at them. If it's Eberflus and a new GM, I'll go to training camp. I'll check out a game. I'll buy some gear, you know. But yeah, if Khan doesn't retool the whole thing, I'll still be a fan, but I'm not going to do much. They won't get any of my money, is what I'm saying.
Is there any disappointment for you that they haven't jumped on a coach at this point, considering they had the, the opportunity to sort of move before other teams?
No,
Okay. That's where I am
no,
too. I don't, that part doesn't bother me
no.
at all.
Take your time, make the best decision, because coaches' salaries, they don't count toward the salary cap. So I mean, Khan's a billionaire. If he wants to pay his next coach $10 million a year just so that he can get that coach, he has every right to do that. So I don't think when it comes to coaches, you have to strike while the iron's hot necessarily. I think you take your time, you look at all the information, and then you make your best call.
Yeah.
So
So do you think, because word is that Bill O'Brien's interview didn't go that great?
that is what I've heard.
Let me ask you this. Do you think there's any possible, because it felt like Balky was the one that was pushing for Bill O'Brien. And do you think there's any sort of residual, with all the pressure from around the fan base, pressure on the front office, everybody but Balky, to get rid of Balky, and then his guy has a terrible interview? I'm just curious, does that at all help the fire Balky momentum? Is there something within the building that goes, see, this guy's judgment is horrible, he brings
No,
this guy into it, and
no, I don't
No.
think so.
maybe I'm just
Yeah, I mean, because
grasping.
I don't know that Shad Khan would hold him accountable for what somebody else did. I understand that he recommended him, but if I'm Khan, I'm going back, I'm looking at draft picks, I'm looking at free agents. Like I'm nitpicking everything. And when I did that just off my own little research, and I don't have half the amount of information they do,
Yeah,
I say he's not very good. And I go all the way back into San Francisco.
of course.
Hell, I call Harbaugh, and I'm like, what happened between you and Balky?
Yeah.
I do. I mean, I do my due diligence. And I guarantee you, I think if he's doing his due diligence on the GM, we'll get a new GM.
Why
If
don't we
he's
interview
not,
Harbaugh? We're going to interview everybody else on the planet. Why don't we interview Harbaugh?
I
We're going
don't
to take our
want
time. Let's
no
do it.
offense, but I don't want Harbaugh either.
Hey, he's
I
got
understand.
success.
I understand he meets the criteria of the coach that I'm asking for. But
He'd be higher on the list. He'd be higher on my list than Matt Eberflus.
well,
He's getting a
potentially.
second interview, and it's nothing against him. I'm just saying,
Right.
it's like, wait, if you're going to do, like you said, due diligence, plus it kills two birds with one stone. You can talk to Harbaugh for the job, and you can get information in regards to your own
Here's a
guy.
question. Do you think Harbaugh will accept the interview with Balky here?
That I don't know, but that'd be a good question to ask. Be like,
So-
yeah, I'll interview. If he says I'll interview, but I'm not going to interview with Balky being there, then then it's up to you on whether you interview with. Here's another thing to think about. Just on that point, I hope somebody in the building is calling people. And I hope they have contacts. My God, I hope they have contacts to call. And they're asking these questions because there's this narrative out there that there are people that won't accept the job, or they really not going to consider this job seriously, even if they interview, because Balky's there. And it seems reasonable that that would be true. Is there a way for them to put some feelers out there to find out how true that actually is? And if you get some feedback like that, doesn't that make the decision for you?
And again, that could be all part of the due diligence. I'm sure the talk we have in Fanville, USA is one kind of talk. There is a complete different language and conversation going on in NFL ownerville. And these guys, they do talk.
I just don't understand how you make such bad decisions. And this isn't just Jaguars. Of course, we're the diamond of bad decisions at this point. But, you see all these, this is a lot of money at stake here. And you just assume these owners care that they want to win, that they love the idea of their franchise winning, and that they would be doing and making the calls and finding the best candidates for their jobs. How is it always? With the whole David Culley being fired and Flores and all that stuff, it just seems like they make the weirdest decisions.
Dude, some of these NFL owners treat their teams just like a trophy wife. I'm part of an elite group. I got this. You don't. They don't care. Do you remember? Was it? I don't want to say her name, but she used to own the Rams.
I don't remember.
Okay.
It's been a while.
Well, that woman was horrible owner. And the Rams only got better after she died and they sold the team. I'm telling you, these owners make money, man. They make money.
I understand that, but I don't know why you
wouldn't do the best you could to make the most money, because you're going to make the most money when you win. And if by chance you want to sell your franchise, a winning franchise or a strong 50-year, of your ups and downs, because every franchise has ups and downs, but one that has been there and been to the dance and has gone and isn't, that's how you build up a fan base. You build up a fan base by riding your highs to the Super Bowl or almost to the Super Bowl during your windows, rebuilding and doing it again. That's how you build your fan base. Teams with strong fan base, they're worth more money. But at what point does it matter? Does 2 billion tickle your fancy when it's already 1.9 billion?
Well, yeah, I get what you're saying, but I also think there's something to be said about power and prestige and stuff like that. That there's this competition. You could say, okay, I'm the fifth most rich person in the world. That's not going to be good enough. You want to be the fourth, and then the third, and then the second, and then the first. So there's a competition aspect, I would imagine, amongst a lot of these people where, and here's the thing, just not even that. Let's say you don't even care that much about being the best, having the best franchise. Let's say you don't care that much about it. You don't want to be the worst. You don't want to be the laughing stock. And so how does it get to this point where you're constantly, and again, it's not just the Jags, it's other teams where they just seem to be putting these people in charge, where
in a perpetual state of suckage. That there are certain franchises that, for whatever reason, are caught in a perpetual state of suckage.
And this is also why this racial narrative gets thrown out there, because nobody understands why some of these people get the power that they get. Like, what is the actual criteria for hiring? Like, what is it? Because you guys don't seem to have winning and success as that criteria many times. But we can drone on and on about this, I suppose, but let's go ahead and shift so we're not too long.
I'm actually okay with ending this, because all we really got to talk about is maybe some draft guys. I didn't do a ton of research, so I was just going to leave it.
Okay.
We can
Well,
probably
you
do it.
mentioned we were going to do that early in the introduction. That's when.
Yeah, well, guess what? We're gonna kick that to another show. So we'll
All
come
right.
out. I'll do a little bit more research. I'll look into some second and third rounds. I am surprised we got 12 picks this year. I didn't know that. That's a lot of picks. Now, granted, I think 3 of them are 6 rounders and like 2 7th rounders. So there's 5 of your guys there. But you may be able to find some diamonds in the rough. So I'll do like a dive, maybe the first 3 rounds, and then see what I can come up with. The guys around there, pitch it to you, see what you think. Other than that, most likely we will not probably be getting a head coach or announcing a head coach until either right before the Super Bowl or right after the Super Bowl. Apparently, we can't hire a new coach while his team is still in the playoffs. So now that does mean that, looking at it from this point of view, Doug Peterson didn't make it, Caldwell didn't make it. And so I think with those guys not getting a second interview, maybe there's a reason why. Maybe Eberflus just wants to be a head coach so bad he's willing to match up with Balky. I don't know.
Why do you
Shad
have to
Khan,
end the show like that, man?
well, because that's the Jaguar way.
Taking my
That's
hat
the
off now.
That's the Jaguar way. I take
Jaguar
mine off too,
fans,
but you can't see the Jaguar on it.
Jaguar fans need hope. We need hope, man. And you just robbed us.
No, Shad robbed us.
No. There's hope that he fires Balky. That's what I'm saying. Maybe he'll fire Balky.
Well, hope in one hand and blank in the other. See which one fills up faster. All right, that's our show for tonight. I want to thank you guys for tuning in, watching us. Hit the subscribe, like button, leave a comment.
Here's a teaser for next show.
We do read.
I got a strategy.
When they're there.
I got a strategy for the first round.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna put myself in Balky's position.
Okay. All right.
So,
Well, I look forward to
teaser
seeing
out
it.
there for you guys. Tune in next time to see that amazing
How about this
strategy.
Let's do a 3-round draft. You pick your best guy, your best draft, and I'll do mine. And we'll leave it up to the 7 people that watch this to tell us which one's better.
Are we up to 7 now?
Yeah, I think we're up to maybe even 8, I thought. Now we get more views, but we only have like 7 or 8 subscribers.
Oh, okay.
So, but I'll take it.
Yeah. All right. Well,
All right. Well, thanks for joining us.
We'll talk
Bye, guys.
draft. See you guys.